Sinner just cracked the Alcaraz code, and the tennis world is absolutely losing its mind over what happened in Monte Carlo. Tennis family, buckle up right now, because what went down in Monte Carlo between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz was not just a tennis match. It was a seismic, ground-shaking, narrative-rewriting event that has sent shockwaves through every single corner of the professional tennis universe and has experts, coaches, and fans absolutely losing their collective mind trying to process the full implications of what they just witnessed. We are talking about one of the most tactically fascinating, psychologically complex, and strategically revealing encounters between two generational rivals that this sport has produced in years. And the details buried beneath the surface of this match, the serve patterns, the forehand percentages, the whispered conversations in the coaching box, the text messages exchanged between analysts and coaches on the morning after, paint a picture that is far more dramatic and far more significant than any scoreline could ever communicate on its own. So stay right here, because we are going deep into every single layer of this extraordinary story. And by the time we are done, you are going to see this match in a completely different light entirely. Let us start with the numbers, because the numbers in this particular matchup tell a story that is simultaneously surprising and absolutely electric. Heading into Monte Carlo, Carlos Alcaraz held a 10-6 advantage over Jannik Sinner in their head-to-head record, a dominance that spoke to the Spanish superstar's extraordinary ability to find solutions against the Italian world number one when it mattered most. And fascinatingly, when analysts examined their overall point totals across their rivalry, the two players had won virtually the same number of points against each other across all their encounters. Think about that for a moment. Two of the greatest players on the planet, separated by 4 matches in the head-to-head, winning almost exactly the same number of individual points across their entire rivalry. It tells you everything about how evenly matched these two extraordinary competitors genuinely are at the deepest level of the game, which makes what Sinner pulled off in Monte Carlo not just impressive but genuinely historically significant. Because Jannik Sinner did not just win a tennis match against Carlos Alcaraz in Monte Carlo. He executed a master plan, a carefully constructed, meticulously prepared, tactically brilliant master plan that targeted the specific vulnerabilities in Alcaraz's game with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of a chess grandmaster. And the architect of that plan was not improvised on the day or assembled in a panic during a rain delay. It was built in practice sessions, refined in tactical meetings, and communicated in text messages to analysts the morning after by Sinner's coach Simone Vignazzi, who confirmed with remarkable candor exactly what they had been working toward and exactly how they executed it when the pressure was at its most suffocating. The serve was where it all began. Anyone who has watched Carlos Alcaraz compete at the highest level knows that his return game is among the most dangerous weapons in the entire sport. He returns like a man possessed, attacking the ball early, taking time away from servers who rely on pace, and converting defense into offense with a fluency and explosiveness that has tormented the best servers on both tours for years. Getting into extended baseline exchanges with Alcaraz when he is reading your serve comfortably is a recipe for a very long, very painful afternoon. Sinner and his coaching team understood this with absolute clarity, so they made a decision. In the biggest moments of the match, particularly on the ad side, Sinner would go out wide consistently and aggressively, targeting the backhand, forcing Alcaraz to reach and dig rather than attack, and then following the serve with a forehand that immediately seized control of the point before Alcaraz could reset and find his rhythm. The first set tiebreaker was where this strategy revealed itself in its most ruthless and beautiful form. Sinner made every single first serve in that tiebreaker. Every one, on one of the biggest stages of the clay court season, against the best returner of his generation, under swirling windy conditions that make precise ball tossing genuinely difficult. Jannik Sinner landed first serve after first serve and watched Alcaraz scramble and strain to handle the wide delivery on the ad side, reaching desperately for a backhand that had nowhere comfortable to go, and then finding Sinner's forehand already loaded and waiting to finish the point on his own terms. It was a tactical execution of the highest order, and it won Sinner the opening set in circumstances that had the coaching boxes the commentators, and the crowd all simultaneously realizing they were watching something carefully and deliberately constructed rather than improvised under fire. Simone Vignuzzi, reached by analysts on the morning after the match, confirmed what the tactical patterns had already suggested to anyone watching closely enough. Sinner was controlling the points from the baseline, and the specific thing they had invested significant practice time in was controlling those baseline exchanges with the forehand rather than the backhand. The numbers behind this are staggering when you place them in historical context. In previous encounters between Sinner and Alcaraz, Sinner had been hitting forehands approximately 50% of the time in their baseline exchanges. A reasonable percentage for most players, but one that reflected a certain passivity in how he was constructing points, allowing rallies to develop neutrally and trusting his backhand to hold its own in cross-court exchanges. In Monte Carlo, that figure jumped to 65%. A 15 percentage point shift in shot selection that fundamentally altered the geometry of every single rally and forced Alcaraz into a defensive posture he was clearly not expecting and clearly struggled to solve throughout the match. Think about what that shift actually means in practical terms. It means that Sinner arrived in Monte Carlo having made a conscious and disciplined decision to refuse the backhand-to-backhand diagonal that had defined so many of their previous encounters, to actively seek his forehand and rally construction even when the more passive backhand cross was available and comfortable, and to use that forehand to take the center of the court and deny Alcaraz the angles he needs to build his most dangerous patterns. It is a harder way to play. It requires more footwork, more court reading, more willingness to move around balls that are perfectly catchable on the backhand. But when executed with the consistency that Sinner demonstrated in Monte Carlo, it transforms the entire dynamic of a rally in his favor and puts Alcaraz in a position he finds genuinely uncomfortable, which is defending rather than attacking. Now here is where the story gets even more fascinating, because Sinner did not win this match by playing brilliantly. And that, counterintuitively, might be the most important detail of the entire afternoon. The conditions in Monte Carlo were genuinely difficult that day. Breezy, cool, the kind of blustery European spring weather that makes clean ball striking genuinely challenging and rewards the player who is willing to use big targets, grind through imperfect situations, and find ways to win points that are ugly and uncomfortable rather than aesthetically satisfying. Sinner got off to a slow start. He had moments during the match where he missed relatively routine opportunities at absolutely critical junctures. At 2-2 in the second set, he had a breakpoint opportunity and missed a straightforward ball. At 4-4, another breakpoint, another routine chance, another miss. At 6-4 in the breaker, with a set point dangling in front of him, he missed a forehand that under normal circumstances he would convert 9 times out of 10. 3 separate moments where the match could have swung decisively in Alcaraz's favor. 3 separate moments where a less mentally mature version of Jannik Sinner might have boiled over with the visible frustration that derailed him on the clay of Roland Garros the previous year, where the world watched him get visibly and damagingly annoyed with himself in ways that cost him momentum and composure at the worst possible times. But in Monte Carlo, something was different. Something had changed in the way Sinner processed those missed opportunities, and the change was remarkable to witness in real time. He absorbed each era with the quiet, forward-looking equanimity of the great champions of previous eras. The Sampras-like refusal to let a missed opportunity become a crisis. The Lendl-like ability to treat each point as a completely fresh event with no emotional residue from what had just happened. He simply moved on, focused on the next point, the next game, the next opportunity. And that mental discipline, that learned ability to compartmentalize failure in the heat of competition against his fiercest rival, proved just as decisive as any tactical adjustment. Because here is the truth about what those moments of winning ugly actually mean for Jannik Sinner's development as a player and a competitor at the very highest level. When you are at the peak of your powers, when you are coming off the sunshine double with the confidence of a player who feels genuinely untouchable, when you walk onto the court against your greatest rival feeling as good as you have ever felt, and you still find a way to win despite not playing your best tennis, despite missing the easy balls of the critical moments, despite grinding through conditions that suit nobody cleanly. That is the kind of victory that does something to you at a cellular level. It builds a form of confidence that peak performance victories simply cannot manufacture, because you now know with absolute certainty that you can beat this person even on your worst day.